Hey everyone, James Lynch here. Let's talk about what everyone is talking about right now on social media if you're a UFC fan, and that is the main event last night, UFC 297, Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland. It is du Plessis getting the split decision win over Strickland in a very, very close fight. I hear people using the word robbery. I've heard a lot of weird things over the last 24 hours. We did a live chat last night, and some of the theories that are out there, I want to discuss here and talk about those too, because there's a lot of strong opinions on both sides of the coin when it comes to this fight. But first, let's just say I am glad this fight lived up to the hype. This was a fantastic main event to kick off the UFC's pay-per-view schedule for 2024. I love this matchup. I'm so glad the fans in Toronto got this fight, because I just did a video earlier. It was not a very good card, in my opinion. I was not too happy with how things sort of unfolded here. But yeah, let's talk about this fight, and I'll mention that I did post my scores. I don't usually do this, but last night I was like, you know what? I'm really in the trenches. I was live in Toronto last night for this one. I wanted to give my scorecard. So I did score the fight last night for Dricus du Plessis, winning 48-47. So that's 3 rounds to 2 for the champ. I gave him rounds 2, 3, and 4. I think 1 and 5 were clearly Sean Strickland's, and we'll get into some of the stats here in a second. But I want to start this video off by saying that this fight was not a robbery, okay? We are throwing that word around way too much. To me, my definition of a robbery is if the fighter barely won a round or didn't win a round at all, and they end up winning the fight. And we've seen fights like that. The one I always bring up is, Diego Sanchez and Ross Pearson for a number of years ago. I don't think Diego Sanchez won a single round of that fight. There's lots of examples. Go on MMAdecisions.com. You can find some of the, closely contested fights. And actually, let's start there first for this fight too, because I think that's something worth mentioning. A lot of people using the robbery word. I actually haven't even checked to see how the media scored this, so I'm curious to see what people say here. And as you can see here, it's down the middle, guys. So listen, if a fight is considered a robbery, this would probably be all Sean Strickland, because people are saying Strickland got robbed last night. It would normally, and this isn't the be all end all, but this is just another example of showing you how people are scoring fights. And this is the media here. So you can see it's right down the middle. That's what this fight was. It was a close fight. It was not a robbery. I mentioned some of the rounds there, or I didn't mention it. I'll mention it now. Some of the rounds were close, right? So the rounds that I gave du Plessis, so let's look at round 2, round 3, round 4. You can see it here. Significant strikes per round were razor close here. You look at the percentages here. Round 2, I think clearly was du Plessis, right? He was 43% significant strikes. But look at this, 35% to 34. Strickland slightly edging him out in that third round, but again, there were some takedowns there as well. 39% to 38. Again, very close round. Strickland clearly won the 5th round. Significant strikes was very different, and clearly won the 1st round as well. You can see it there. Significant strikes are not the be-all, end-all either, but let's look through some of the other things as to how we got here as well. And by the way, these are the judges. Sal D'Amato, 48-47. Derek clearly scoring it for Sean Strickland, and Eric Colon scoring it for, Sal D'Amato scoring it for Sean Strickland, and then Cleary and Eric Colon scoring it for du Plessis in that fight for him to get the split decision win in this one. But one thing I think people are forgetting about are the takedowns. Look, du Plessis landed 6 takedowns. Whether you like it or not, the judges do count that stuff a lot. That was one of the things that you did see in the fight, was du Plessis having success with the takedowns, hitting, just over 50% of his takedowns in the fight. So that's good. And that's something that also helped out. But you look at what Strickland did best, the actual overall head strikes, was very much a differential here. Strickland landing that jab a lot last night. You saw du Plessis' face. Actually posted a photo here on Twitter last night. We'll go look at that, because not going to get booted off YouTube or anything like that. But look at du Plessis' face. It was not looking good, right? You can see his eyes and everything there all puffed up. So he did take some damage here. But again, it was very tough. But then contrast that with, like I said, Strickland didn't get a single takedown in the fight. Du Plessis also landing 24 of 34 leg kicks. Strickland only landing 6. Again, there's some differences here. So people again say, well, Strickland got the most significant strikes. Yeah, but if you dig a little bit deeper, the takedowns, the leg kicks, there were other things that du Plessis did that I think got him the nod in this fight. So I'll say it again. And, again, we've got more time to talk about this, but this was not a robbery. This was a close fight. If the judges had said Sean Strickland won this fight 3-2, I'd have 0 issues with that whatsoever. These rounds right here, very close. Like I said, if you wanted to just go by significant strikes, you probably would have Sean Strickland winning the fight here, right? Because you've got let's go just purely by significant strikes. Strickland takes round 1, du Plessis takes round 2, Strickland takes round 3, du Plessis takes round 4, Strickland takes round 5. So that's what 4-2 or 3-2, I think. Yeah, 3-2. My math's correct. So, I mean, that's not a robbery. That's a close fight. Like, if a fight ends 3-2, then that's fine. If the fight was 4-1, like the people that are claiming robbery on the Strickland side, if you really think Sean Strickland won that fight 4-1, then fair enough. If that would fall under the category of a robbery. But we're talking about a fight that was 3-2 that I realistically think could have gone either way. And some of these rounds were close. It's not like Strickland clearly won these rounds here. Look at the strikes. It's very close. So that's my thoughts. I think it was a very close fight. I do not think it's a robbery. I think robbery is justified in certain matchups. And I just gave a reference earlier here tonight, but this earlier here today, I should say, but this is not one of them in my opinion. And why not? If anything, this is, I think, good news for the UFC, because in my opinion, they got a bit of a problem right now as far as what they're going to do with the middleweight title. Because here's the thing: you got Duplessis as the champ. He wants to fight Adesanya. I don't think Adesanya deserves it. I talked about this in another video. He came off a decisive loss to Sean Strickland. That should not automatically get him a title shot again. I know he was the title holder previously, but he had just won that title back from Alex Pereira. That does not count as like consecutive title defenses, in my opinion. So to me, Adesanya should have to go fight someone else, the same way that Brandon Moreno is fighting Brandon Royval next to fight Pantoja after this. He didn't get an immediate rematch. So that's something I think is important to kind of mention here in terms of the options. And then I've been very vocal about this as well. I don't think Khamzat Chimaev should get the title shot either. I think he needs to beat an actual ranked middleweight like a Jared Cannonier or someone like that before we start talking about him fighting for the title, because those are two names there. So I think you could absolutely do a Strickland Duplessis rematch in Vegas. It could be part of International Fight Week or something later. I don't know, but I think it would be very interesting if they did the rematch. And I think you sort of struck gold. And listen, these two carried this week as far as the pay-per-view in terms of the interviews and everything. I mean, they were the talk of the town this week. There's a few other fighters on this card, but they really stole the show as far as media and everything else, and even like the views and all that stuff. So strike while the iron's hot. Take advantage of this possible rematch. This is a good thing. But yeah, robbery, no, not with you there. Now let's get to the conspiracy theories, okay? We're going to get a little political here on this show, and I don't normally like doing that, but we have to, because there was a lot of political things said. We know what happened between Sean Strickland and the reporter. Let's quickly just do a quick Google search. I'll let the report explain for itself. Goes after reporter or something like that. There we go. There we go. Sean Strickland berates reporter, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we know what happened there, okay? We don't need to rehash that. I have some clips on my channel which sort of explain exactly what happened here. So there's that side of things. I heard people last night in my chat say that the judges purposely scored the fight against Sean Strickland because of this stuff. Meanwhile, not even realizing that Dana White, let's go have a quick look there. Dana White reporter. Dana White destroys work journalist, destroys reporter, all this stuff. So Dana White, so you're telling me this, like there's people out there that think that this was some sort of agenda that they wanted Sean Strickland to lose. Let's go over a couple factors here. Let's start first with the fact that Strickland's obviously stance on certain things. Dana White, I would say, probably shares similar views in terms of letting his fighters say what they want. He was very clear about this in the clip last night. You watch it at the presser. The one that I put there is actually on my channel. Dana White fires back a reporter. Go watch that right now. You'll see he basically says, I'm going to let my fighters do whatever they want and say whatever they want. So if Dana White feels that way, why would the judges all of a sudden say, take orders from Dana and say that they want Sean Strickland to lose? The other thing is, Sean Strickland was probably one of the most popular fighters in 2024 or 2023, I should say. His win over Israel Adesanya, one of the biggest upsets. He got a huge fan base off that fight, and just, some of the stuff he says, whether you agree or don't agree, there is an audience for Sean Strickland. And I heard it this week at UFC 297. When I was at that press conference on Thursday, everyone was chanting his name. He was clearly the biggest fan favorite, even more so than Mike Malott, who's a Canadian. Sean Strickland was getting more publicity there. So you don't think the UFC takes notice of that? You don't think the UFC knew that Strickland is somewhat of a draw, and that's why they put him in this main event on the Toronto card in Canada? Of course they know that. So why would they want Sean Strickland not to be champion? Like, the amount of conspiracy theories I've seen saying that it must be because they don't like Strickland is just nonsense. So let's recap a little bit here. You've got a UFC president who says he doesn't care what his fighters say. And listen, if they did care what Sean Strickland said, he would have got fined. He would have got suspended. There's many ways you can punish a fighter for saying what they're going to say. And this video is not about whether you agree or disagree with what Sean Strickland said. I'm just saying that Dana White has made it very clear that he does not care what his fighters say, and that's his prerogative. So this idea that Dana and the UFC and the judges and all these people conspired, and I even heard the word fix last night. It was a fixed fight. If that's it, why would the UFC do that if they're in the business of making money? Which they are. wouldn't you want Sean Strickland as champion? You would want him as champion because he's someone that, again, the fans show up for. They're very, they're in the business of making money. It's the same reason why John Jones has had plenty of leeway being with the UFC for some of the things that he's done outside the cage, right? Like Conor McGregor, the list goes on. If it's going to make the UFC money, they will pull out all stops to make sure it's happened. So I wanted to mention that too, because and I know these are probably younger fans and people who don't really understand how the sport works, but like, come on, people, it's a fixed fight. The judges, by the way. The other thing is, the Canadian judges were in on it. I showed you the judges in this fight. They are Canadian. Derek Cleary, Eric Cole, and Sal D'Amato are American judges. That has nothing to do with Canada. So I'm sure there's a Reddit thread or something saying that Canada had the fix in because it's a liberal country and all that, blah, blah, blah. It's none of that stuff. So that is just total nonsense. And I wanted to mention that on this video as well. So again, to recap this video, this was not a robbery. It was a close fight. I think it could have gone 3-2 either way. Do the rematch next, then everyone's happy. And Sean Strickland is absolutely someone the UFC wants to keep around because it's good for business. It's as simple as that. Like, again, and that's the other thing. Like, if they were like, and I've heard some people saying, oh, Strickland's too controversial, then why would you put him in a main event for UFC pay-per-views so controversial? If he was controversial, they'd bury him as like a, co-main event or main card fight on another pay-per-view if they were really worried about what he was saying. So let's stop that nonsense, shall we? That sounds a lot better. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. And listen, I'm going to be very clear about this, okay? If you want to discuss this fight and talk about why you think Strickland won, that's fine. If you want to say it's a robbery, that's fine, but don't sit here and start saying I know more than you do or whatever. Okay, we can have a fun conversation about this, but you don't have to be a dick about it, because there's certainly people who've been like that, acting like I don't know what I'm watching, even though I've covered I don't know how many events and I've covered the sport for a long time. And listen, I'm not an expert, but watching that last night, I came away thinking that could have gone either way. It goes Dracus's way. Next time it might go Strickland's if they end up doing the rematch. So follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram @LynchOnSports. I'm James Lynch. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comments. I always like doing more opinion video stuff like this these days, so I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll see you soon.